Happy to be back on the channel, everyone. If you're new, I hope you'll become a member by the end of this video. Let's jump right in. Let's go back to the 2nd of March, which was about 24 hours ago. If you look at these prices all together, they make it seem like the market was in good shape, right? Bitcoin was worth $94,000, Ethereum was worth $2,500, and XRP was almost worth $3. Solana was worth $178, and ADA was worth $113. As of right now, this is the picture we are looking at. Talk about changes. Bitcoin is down more than 10% in the last 24 hours and is now worth 83K. Ethereum is down more than 15% and is now worth almost $2,000. XRP is down almost 20% and is now worth about $2.3. At $136, Solana is down almost 20%. The ADA is down 20 cents or almost 6% and is now worth almost 78 cents. Hey guys, this is crazy. Look at how many people lost this time around. What led to all of this? For starters, what caused the first spike? Also, this is how Bitcoin's coin market cap chart has looked over the last week. That's the news from the Trump team, also known as this one. I'm going to put XRP, Solon, and ADA in a US coin reserve. The US will once again be the crypto capital of the world. The 2nd of March, 10:36 a.m. Here we have the big push to the top around 10:35 a.m. Then by 9 a.m., we crashed early yesterday. Why? What was the big deal that made the market drop? We'll talk about that in this video, but first let's talk about some other things going on in this place. First, let us look at the measure of fear and greed. Once more, this has been moving around a bit. In fact, if we look back at the last 30 days, notice that nice little spike up to almost 40. It's almost back to normal, but it's still at a scary level. This is what the past year looks like. You can see the big drop after the big jump. It seems pretty crazy, doesn't it? I mean, this much fluctuation is kind of crazy. Is that okay? That's the main question. Is this level of fluctuation normal? Yes. This is normal during a bull market. I'm going to tell you the truth. Yes, it is. The big question is whether we're getting better or whether that was just one big dead cat bounce. Right now, this is how Bitcoin looks. Trying to break through strong resistance. That big liquidity wick, the nice big pump is already there, right? I mean, Bitcoin really came back from this, right? We think about this. There was a 21% rise to the top and then a 13.24% fall to the bottom. And the problem is that Bitcoin's dominance is so high that it kills any progress that any other coin, even XRP, had. What would you like me to watch now? What is the most important thing we need to pay attention to? It's the building. And the reason you've heard me talk about structure so much on this show is because we already have this big low. If we lose this, the framework for Bitcoin will be very bad. In my opinion, the next big goal is to get under 70K points. This is why we want to see a bounce back from these lows in the CME gap. The important thing is to keep this trend going. This is a big trend line that we want to keep. This is something we'll be watching for a few days. There's no doubt that the weekly candle close will be very important. In fact, we didn't even have a strong weekly candle close that included that pump. We could see where the top of this weekly candle really was. In the past, on the 6th of January or 13th, it tried to flip that support zone. We still haven't flipped that. Right now, it's making a barrier, which is why we're also selling off here. This week's close above this wick is what I'm really looking forward to. That's it. That's all I need right now. What I want is for this pattern to stay bullish on both the lower and higher timeframes. I am definitely paying attention to what is going on here. Overall, does Bitcoin's current price chart show anything to worry about? Not really, not until we break through this low point. When we drop below that low, we start to worry. But besides this XRP, this did have that rise. Let's talk about it. We did have a higher high in the daily. Also, let's take a look at the failed exit. This is pretty much a fake out. We've already, this was pretty much a proven breakout based on the daily candle close. But if you looked at this over, say, 3 days, you could see that this was just one big wick to the top. It's crazy to see this thing on the 3rd day, a massive wick to the bottom, then a massive wick to the upside. Blowout failed on the 3-day chart. What do I have here now? In the end, I want these lows to stay in place. When it comes to XRP, I also want a bigger low. It looks like we're building some support here so far. I think we should keep this around $2.18, but mostly I'm thinking about wicks, right? That's pretty much it. Taking a look at wicks. I don't want us to make a lower low based on these liquidity wicks from the 27th or even the 3rd. So far, once more, the XRP price picture doesn't show anything too important. Is there something that I should worry about? Not really, no. Not until we get above this low. It's the same story with Bitcoin again. We're only looking at the structure. We don't need to make things more difficult. We don't need to think too much about anything. Structure is all we're looking at. Besides that, though, the S&P, the NASDAQ, and the Dow are the three charts I'll be looking at all week. When we really look at what's going on, it's not that different from Bitcoin. We want these lows to stay in place. It's our goal to keep making a higher low case on the S&P, the NASDAQ, and even the Dow. The NASDAQ has lost its January low, but it still has a low from the middle of November that has held so far. We want to keep this range in place. It's important not to lose this range, because if we do, the NASDAQ could drop below 200. This could cause a lot of problems for stocks everywhere, which will obviously spread to crypto. Besides the NASDAQ and the S&P 500, the Dow Jones shows a small loss of these lows in terms of a daily candle close, but things don't look good here on a weekly scale. Every week is when we start to worry the most. There will be about 3 days and 19 hours between now and then. That's less than 3 days. We want this 3-day close to be above this line. If we close below this line, it won't bother me too much because, as I said, we're just going by where the daily support is, which is around this line, around 58 to 56. In any case, we're just taking a look at this right now, and we already have some structure to work with. We can see the lows from the end of October and the beginning of January here. This is where we really check to see if the same pattern will happen again. Very bearish price action followed by a big move to the upside. We've been following that path so far. This is what I'm seeing with the S&P 500 right now. Already there are 2 bearish candles here, which is a lot like what we saw back here. Are the next candles going to be strong, like the one we're trading in now, in 3 days and about 19 hours or 15 hours? It doesn't really matter, right? We should know what's going to happen here by the end of the week. The S&P 500, in terms of the trend, we don't have enough prices to go on. It looks like it's going to break. So I'm going to keep a close eye on this chart for the next few days. As I said, we want to see bullish structure form on all levels, such as the 3-day chart. This is the exact pattern we've had for 3 days now. You can see that these lows have held, and then, bigger lows have come after them. In March, we also want to see bigger lows here. Besides that, the Dow Jones shows a very similar trend. We look at this every 3 days. We do have those bad times. The lows are a little higher than the lows in October as well. That was clear to see here. Now we're looking at whether we can keep these lows up here. Are we going to have a strong candle close on the 3-day, which ends in about 19 hours and 1 hour? Then will that important low stay in place? That's the main question. Just so you know, the flip here in terms of making a higher high going back to November 8th is actually a lot closer. That could act as barrier here, just like it did in November before we finally broke out near the end of the month, which also let crypto flood the market. But all of these bad price changes are due to what Trump is doing. All the Trump team has to say is taxes, tariffs. Tariffs make the market go crazy. Tariffs are seen as bad by most people because they do nothing good. They make things tense in the world's politics, which leads to economic problems. Because of this, a lot of people are scared. What just happened? We have this here. At the start of the day, the Dow was up more than 300 points. In just a few hours, it fell as much as 1,100 points. And 3:3 p.m., the S&P 500 lost a huge $1,500 billion in market value. This is everything you need to know, a list of the things that happened. It looked like the S&P 500 would keep going up after it started 30 points higher on Friday. Then at 1 p.m., before Trump announced his stake, there was already pressure to sell. By 3:40 p.m.,